Welcome. All right. My name is Mike McGuire. I teach communications here at Moraine Valley. Today we're here with students from my Com 101 class, which is a course that not only introduces students to college level writing, but also challenges them to think critically. My students have been focusing their writing and thinking this semester on the aims of education, which is appropriate because most students have been deeply immersed in schooling for 12 plus years of their lives. They have grown up in school in large part. Indeed, most of us have. When we are drenched in the normalcy of shared experience, it is easy not to question it, not to examine it. And so this semester, we have taken that as our charge to direct our critical thinking in this direction of education. Towards that end, my students and I have used an approach called deliberative dialogue. Deliberative dialogue is a face-to-face method of interaction where small groups of diverse individuals come together to exchange and weigh ideas and opinions about a particular issue that they all care about. It is a form of guided discussion aimed at finding the best course of action. For this dialogue, we made use of an issue framework from the National Issues Forum, which had us ask the question, how should higher education help us create the society we want? Students considered 3 broad priority areas, and from this worked through a process to arrive at specific action recommendations for higher education to help achieve a shared vision of society. So in a moment, I'm going to invite several groups of students to come forward to present action recommendations, but first I thought it might be helpful to show you just a few minutes of a starter video on this topic from the National Issues Forum. Okay, I'm hoping that kind of set it up a little bit for you, and I'm sorry about the volume. I'm not sure if you could hear that very well, but the 3 basic areas that students started with about prioritizing the efforts of higher education. That's where we began. One last thing, though, before we bring the students up in the room, we also have representatives from a number of student support areas on campus, staffing tables along the back of the room there. These areas include the Job Resource Center, the Honors Program, Multicultural Affairs, the Speaking and Writing Center, TRIO Student Support Services, Academic Advising, Transfer Information, Student Life and Code of Conduct, and the Learning Enrichment and College Readiness. We've invited these folks here today because today's event is all about maximizing the benefits of higher education, both societally and individually. At some point during today's program, there's going to be, I think, plenty of time after the student presentations. Please visit these tables to learn more about the resources available to you on this campus, resources that are designed to help you succeed. Okay. Oh, and then, of course, also, once we hear from the students after they give their presentations, I'd like to invite you to take a look at the visual representations that they've made regarding their recommendations and their concerns as well that are on posters at the front of the room. So we'll have time for that after the presentations. Okay? So without further ado, let's hear from what the students have to say on the direction they would like to see higher education take to help achieve their shared vision for our society. Okay? Stand here. Stand here. Stand here. Yeah. And there you go. You pass the mic.
Okay. All right, so our presentation today is about breaking tradition for a better society. College is becoming overrated and way too expensive. So rather than receiving a higher education by attending a university, we would appreciate it if you guys could hear us out and consider vocational education and training.
So what vocational education training is usually a 2 to 3 year program that equips people with knowledge, skills, hands-on training that are required for a specific occupation such as engineering, accounting, and architecture. And the first step is promotion of vocational training institutes by criteria. If we all attend more schools with vocational training, the more it would spread. Also, if there was a study on which school is doing better, for example, if Moraine was vocational training and UIC was a traditional learning school, then Maureen would be able to receive a higher grade point average just based on the vocational training itself. The training would also spread and become more popular.
Step 2, promotion of selected institutes or competence centers. Business Intelligence Competency Center is a cross-functional organizational team that has defined tasks, roles, and responsibilities for supporting and promoting educational organizations. If people make an influence in this organization, vocational training could be easily supported. Step 3, training funds. Many schools of a profession receive federal or state grants to provide specific educational programs. Funds may be allocated for faculty salaries, student aid, and other expenses. Instead of putting this money towards all of these expenses, we could put it towards vocational training for a free education.
All right, step 4 and 5, indirect financing of vocational training by way of other priorities. Private schools operate privately and are funded by private money such as tuition and donations. School vouchers are subsidies given directly to parents for tuition at any school. We could use this money to pay for school to obtain a free education.
That's all.
Thank you. All right, let's bring our next group up. That's you guys, right? Come on up. All right. Stand here in the center.
Okay.
We've all heard about the American dream, the posh car, the nice job, the well-attended family. But let's be honest, who really has achieved the American dream? Is it just me, or do I see it just as billionaires that have achieved it? According to the Ivory Tower documentary, student debt has surpassed $1.3 trillion. Student debt has skyrocketed by 47% in the last 10 years. Many students realize that education is the only way they can succeed because they want to have a good job that they actually love and they want to spend on their family, but they don't really know what they're getting themselves into. They think, okay, we'll just take a loan from the bank, and they forget about the interest rate. Because when they take that loan afterwards, it's going to be pretty high. And then suddenly, oh, creditors are following after them, and there's not much to do. And one great example is Matthew Bridges. He's in his late 60s, and he has been hounded by the creditors his entire life. He's reached about a $2 million debt so far. Another issue I want to discuss is about unnecessary classes. Many colleges, including Marine, kind of force you to take classes you don't need. I mean, I personally don't think that the ACT or the Compass should determine which classes you should enter. Because if they actually check your transcript and it says that you did well in a certain class, but when you took the test, you didn't do that well, that doesn't mean that that you should enter that class, basically. I mean, like, including myself, I was supposed to take a Math 098, but in high school, I aced a college algebra class. And it's just like stress when you're underneath the stress and you just don't do that well. I really think that we should be given the chance to determine our full potentiality by placing ourselves in the classes we think we need. I mean, obviously, no one wants to put themselves to failure. But by saying that we can only enter certain classes, that way you're kind of saying that we subliminally can't do harder classes. We can't accomplish that. Yeah.
A personal example I have with debt, my sister, she got her bachelor's degree and she had to take out loans, but my mom had to put it under her name because, you know, when you take out loans, they want to make sure you have credit and stuff like that. Now my mom is forced to pay back loans that my sister, she didn't find a job in her field in her bachelor's degree. So now it's hurting my mom's credit and stuff like that. Possible things that we can do about debt, financial aid and scholarships should be expanded to give lower and middle class students the opportunity to pay for their classes. They can also raise money for colleges through fundraisers and marathons. About unnecessary classes, something we could do, maybe talk to your advisor about situation if you feel that you shouldn't be in that class. Also, students, you can retake the compass exam until you get the class that you feel you should be in.
The problem with society is that education is being seen as a private good rather than a public good, where only the wealthy can afford to be educated. I mean, shouldn't education help us stand on our own 2 feet rather than weigh us down? How can a person achieve his or her dreams knowing that they still have to pay back to society? Students deserve to be able to achieve their dreams, just like the previous generations. Education is a liberation from the world we live in. It's hope for the better future. So the community should stand up and create a petition to help lower tuition fees for students. One voice can change a room, and if that voice can change a room, it can change a city. If it can change a city, it can change a state. If it can change a state, it can really change the world. So don't stay quiet. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. All right, we're going to bring up our next group. A small class today. I wanted to just, well, I'm going to save that comment. Hold on.
Oh God, I'm gonna freak out. Tuition is rising faster than family incomes, and the first thing anyone thinks about when it comes to college is the cost. With student debt being at an all-time high and still growing, we have nothing but fear for how much we will have to owe and if we'll even be able to continue next year. The struggle is real. We need to take some sort of action to help our and future generations.
The out-of-district payment, me being out of district, it is really hard for me to pay for school and books. My total was about $4,100, as to where if I was in district, it would only be about 17. So they should definitely figure out how to fix something with that. I mean, I understand that people in district should get a little bit, but out of district, I mean, I don't have $4,100. I mean, I work full-time, and when I get a paycheck every 2 weeks, it goes right into my pay on account. So I don't even know if I can come back next semester due to that.
I'm also having the same problem. I'm working full-time and I'm in school full-time. My parents are helping me, but it only goes so far because they have other important things too, and I'm struggling right now. I want to take out a loan, but that'll probably, is it on? And, it'll really probably hurt in the future, paying back loans. All right.
As another out-of-district student, I wanted to know where my tuition money is going to. So what I did find out was that how the colleges was getting funded. So about 25% of their funding comes from state, another 20% comes from our tuition and fees, and then another 20%, and then plus some come from grants and other people who help who give money to the schools. I forgot what that's called. I'm so sorry. But even with this tuition, like me putting my money into it, I still have to pay. In total, for the 2 years I'm going to be here, about $1,600, sorry, on just books and other school supplies that I would need, and that's not including the tuition I'm already paying for.
Personally, I did get financial aid, but I still had to pay out of pocket about $500, and then also I had to pay for books, which was $500. And personally, I don't really have money laying around. I mean, I do work 2 jobs right now, so it was kind of hard to pay for that. My parents did pay for the rest of my tuition, but I had to pay for books. And then also I did research more stuff online. Actually, Moraine Valley provides websites online that you can look for. First one, they do provide guaranteed price matches. That's something on their website that they do list. And also you can swap your books with other people. You just need to like post online. I'm not sure how that process is, but and also you could rent books, which is a lot cheaper than buying books here, because I spent $500. I'm sure you can buy the books online for a lot cheaper than what I had to pay. That's just something that I didn't look into when going to college. And then also another thing is they do provide a website. It's called Jump Books. And yeah, basically you can just sign up and you can get the book online instead of buying it. And I'm sure you got to pay for that as well, but it's just an easier access to get what you need for the books.
Okay. I'm also paying for school, and it's a struggle. I have financial aid too, but it doesn't cover everything, so I also have to pay a loan sum of like $500 out of pocket, not including books, which is probably another $300 added to that. I really feel like the financial aid process should be a lot easier than it is, because it was like really difficult trying to fill out the whole form. I actually needed a lot of help with my mom, and I actually had to come up to school like 6 different times, because each time I came up they were telling me I was missing something else that I did not say I needed on the sheet. So I feel like we should have better alternatives, like a class should be set up where we can take to figure out, so they can show us and mentor us on how to actually fill out the sheet. And yeah, filling out the sheet, there is different steps. Again, I am out of district and I am paying 100% on my own. My parents are not helping me. And when I filled out the FAFSA, they asked a lot for my parents' information, and my dad makes a reasonable amount of money, which denied me from getting financial aid because he made so much. I was at that cutoff point. But it was really frustrating because I was paying on my own. My parents are not helping me. So I would like to know a better process of that. But the good thing about coming to Moraine is that it is a community college, and there are differences when it comes to coming to community than coming to a university. Okay. Some of the benefits of coming to Moraine is Moraine Valley is $358 and 4% cheaper than on average Illinois tuition of 2-year colleges. Individuals who live on their own have a total cost of $16,826 rather than if they were to go to a university, which is $18,943 for in-state students. Those who live with their parents for 2 years costs would have to pay about $10,014. Students who would rather go to universities out of state would actually have to pay $32,762 on average. At private schools, the bill would be $42,419. And those amounts do not include transportation, books, and of course laundry. So our call to action is for us to be able to have workshops and other areas, and hopefully have administration help us fill out financial aid and FAFSA and understand that process more. Another thing we would like to bring to action is making students aware of what their tuition is going to and how they could stretch their dollar to the fullest, how they could have different alternatives instead of buying the most expensive book, and how they could do other little small things that could help them stretch their dollar again. So thank you guys. 1, 2, 3. The struggle is real.
Thank you. Very good. We have a final group. Sorry. There we go.
Hello, everyone. So, our title on our poster board, right there, the yellow one, it says, "We are people before we are students." So, what that means to us is basically, as students, we feel that we are so much more than an ACT score, a tuition payment, or a statistic. And the 3 concerns that revolve around that is college readiness, student assessments, and tuition. So, as students, I mean, it should be our dream to attend a college or a university. And I mean, Moraine wasn't my dream school, but it was certainly one that was convenient for me financially and academically, even. However, there are students around the country that are saying that attending a college isn't as important as it was back then. And as that has to be saddening for a lot of us, especially for educators and other students that want everyone to have an equal opportunity of learning. So, having said that, this poster board and all of our key points and concerns are supposed to go over as to how we can change that problem of why the value of education, higher education rather, is decreasing, and what we can do to, solve these problems with some solid solutions. So one of them would be tuition, and Charlie's going to take it away with that. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yes, and the cost of tuition is an increasing problem. It's forcing many students to take out student loans that they may or may not be able to repay in the future. And obviously that's a huge issue. And one of the ways that we can sort of alleviate the stress that these student loans cause is reducing the cost of tuition. And so one way that we can go about doing this is to have colleges and universities reevaluate the way that they spend their money. And so while I think that this is one aspect that Moraine does very well, there are also universities such as the University of Alabama, which, when I say that, many people, the first thing that comes to their mind is the University of Alabama football. Well, unfortunately, universities should be placing education first. And so, maybe having a priority of football is not exactly the best idea for a university such as Alabama to, have a priority. And another important aspect of this is college readiness.
My group concluded that most students find it difficult to adapt to college level classes because they're just not ready for it. And we also concluded that some decide not to attend school for the second semester because they feel like they're not ready to continue or that they can't afford to pay for it. And high school should prepare us more sooner for college rather than start in our junior year because we need more time because we're not ready. And another thing is that student maturity. They don't take colleges seriously because they still think that it's high school. And readiness goes hand in hand with tuition costs because if students aren't prepared, they're forced to take remedial classes that won't even count for their credit. They just take it so that they could be placed in a different class. And Kimberly will take for the student assessment.
Okay, so as you can see, our three concerns are kind of connected and related in a way. So with tuition, you have college readiness, and college readiness meaning that the remediation rates are increasing because a lot of people aren't ready, mature, on a maturity level as well as academically. But could you really say that remediation rates are rising? I don't know, because when I was personally assessed by Moraine and by my ACT, it had concluded that I had to take an 098 class for mathematics. So I was not yet at the college level. However, when I took the placement test at Moraine, still saying that I had to take the 098, I was unable to register online for that class. And when I was confused as to why, I had to call Moraine, and they said that my ACT score had saved me. So, I mean, for them to throw out their own placement test and to go after what my ACT score said, even though my placement test was more recent, it just makes me question if there's really an accuracy to these tests, or should students really be evaluated on just test scores? Probably not, because a lot of students have difficulty in testing. So, I almost had to spend my money on an 098 class, but unfortunately for one of my friends, she's been in an 098 class for this whole semester, and it wasn't until this month that her teacher informed her that she should be in a standard level class because she's been receiving an average of a 97. So, to know that she spent her money and her time in this class that wasn't exactly necessary, and she knew that she was too smart for the class, that means that it wasn't really taken into consideration, her money and her time. So basically what we want to talk about is that for colleges to get our respect again, and I know it should be an equal effort from students and from the teachers and from administrators and faculty, but we need to see that our time and our money is important to them as well. We need to see that it's being utilized properly. So with student assessments, I wanted to say that for years, like, we've been assessed by the ACT score or by placement tests like compass tests, but it's just the accuracy that is the problem. And it's been said for years now that a lot of people have difficulty in testing and they have test anxiety, or for whatever reason, their scores don't match their transcripts. So I feel like if we were to assess students more properly, I suppose, and if we were to look at how they performed academically throughout their whole years of schooling, as opposed to just one score and one placement test, we would have students coming back the next semester saying, wow, I spent my time wisely. Wow, I spent my money wisely. So having said that, with remediation rates and tuition and student assessments, basically, students should be going through this preparation process in grammar school, because our last 2 years of high school is certainly not enough to cram it in that we're going off to college. It's a big deal to us. And as a lot of you know, there's senioritis, and some of us still have it as college freshmen, and let me tell you, it's really hard. But if I read on the ACT website, I read this essay actually, that it said if we were to start preparation in 6th grade, I feel like that would be, how would you guys say it? It would be more beneficial. And why is this all important? Well, Sherard's going to tell us.
We believe that it's all important because students should know the benefits that they should have or receive here at the school at Moraine Valley or in high school before they even start to go into college, even when they have senioritis. So, it's important that you know this, because if you don't, then you're just going to go into debt just like most students go into debt because they take out so many loans. And, recently, I've learned about a few benefits that could go towards my college tuition or towards my books. $500 for exact. I'm sorry, a little sick today, but it's really important about the tuition and to learn benefits from that, from financial aid, from counselors, from academic advisors, from teachers here at the school too. So, it's good to set up meetings with students to let them know that you have this, you can receive this. And it's important about the readiness because most students are not ready. My first semester, I wasn't ready. But after that, I was kind of prepared and mentally ready so I could start going on to my path, going into my career. But most students, even after their first semester, they're not ready. So, and they want time, but even if they get time, they don't come back because they still believe they're not ready. So I believe in high school, they should be more prepared when they come into college. So, set up classes in high school, senior year, junior year, get them prepared so when they come to college, they know what they're expecting. Because college is harder than it is, even at a community college. So you should know this. And the student assessments, it's all scores. All the scores go based off scores. They mean nothing, to be honest. Most schools, they have placements. Yeah, you go to a placement, you do good. But when you see that ACT, you're going into a remedial class. And most students don't want to go into a remedial class. But you have to, just because the college said you have to because you took the placement test. But your ACT score says otherwise. But either way, the scores don't, I believe the scores does not matter, to be honest. But that's just my opinion. Here you go, Joe.
Thanks, Sherrod. All right, I'm going to talk about basically our call to action. It's not towards the administration. It's more or less towards the students. If you want the problems that we've talked about today to take a turn for the better, you can't expect the 5 of us to change it. The student body needs to come together and make a difference. If there were 500 people up here, the administration would be taking us much more seriously. Whether it be a protest, a strike, or an action form like this one, those are all possible things you could do to make more of an impact. Like I said, the student body needs to come together with common interests to make our education better. It's not really a solution, it's just more or less a step in the right direction towards a solution. Thank you.
Thanks. Nicely done. Thank you very much. You know, I hit the students with a pretty mighty task this semester when I said, hey, let's look at some of the problems with higher education and see if we can do anything about that. You know, and we watched some the film Ivory Tower. Perhaps some of you were at the event yesterday where we discussed that film, and maybe you've seen the film. And other things we've read, I think, have created a lot of anxiety in students about these challenges that maybe they weren't quite aware of. But I commend them for coming up here and wrestling with the issue. Even if maybe we don't have a solution at hand right now, we're talking about it, we're having a conversation. Part of the deliberative dialogue method that we used in the classroom stressed the importance of not listening for flaws in language when people are talking, but listening for what they mean, listening for the meaning behind their words. And there's a whole lot of meaning going on in this room right now. Students expressing their concerns, their ideas for directions that we might be taking, calling out, others to listen and to act. So I just wanted to commend them for a job very well done. I know it's not easy. Some of them, quite honestly, were terrified. I'm revealing that to you, but so they did it. So that's great. Good job. Yeah, clap. All right. At this point, and one other thing I want to say. I know the audience isn't huge right now, and so for all of you who are thinking maybe there's not a lot of people hearing your words, there are a lot of people hearing your words because there's that camera right there. And it's all of the events in the library are recorded like this, and they're archived in the library catalog, so that when students in the future are searching for issues regarding higher education, they may very well pull up this event and hear your words. So it goes on beyond this moment. At this time, I want to see if there's any questions or comments, perhaps from the student services folks who are in the room. If you'd like to ask anything of the students, say anything, offer some advice, or anybody. Yes. All right. Jeremy Kingery, our academic advisor in the room.
Thank you. I do want to say I think you guys did an awesome job. It's not easy to get up in front of a group of people like this. One of the things, and we were kind of talking after the last session, I think so much of life is about choices. I know we heard a lot about, like at the last session, one student said he's paid $100 for a psychology book and he hasn't opened it once. My question to him would be why? Why are you guys not, and I don't mean like you guys, I've taught here long enough, I've been an advisor here long enough to know that, yes, a lot of times you can get by without opening a book. A lot of us as teachers, we cover material very well in the class, but it comes to like challenging yourself. Okay, yeah, you can get through the class and get a C or get a B, but why not push yourself to learn more? And it's kind of the same thing with finances. School is expensive, and it's getting more expensive, but so are everything. And, I hear a lot of students often complain about, oh, I had to spend $100, on this book. And then I look down and they're wearing a $400 pair of gym shoes. And they're carrying a $700 cell phone. I say that now, please understand, I say that as somebody who is still, I'm 37 years old, and I'm $56,000 in debt, student loan debt. My student loan payment is more than my mortgage, so it's not that I don't mean to sound unsympathetic, but I think we have to understand as students, as educators, that some of this is about choices and the choices that we make and where we prioritize things. So let me say lastly that, as an advisor, we are here for you to help you figure these things out, to make sure your classes will transfer or that you're on the right track and so on. So please, the resources are here. Again, you guys have to make sure you utilize it. In terms of advising, there's 15 of us. There's 18,000 of you. So, make sure you're utilizing the resources that are here because we can help you.
Thanks so much. Others? Ooh, we've got a response. Let's hear a student response, perhaps.
My question to you is that, do you think it's okay that you're in all that debt? Like, do you feel that your education was worth that debt? Yes? Okay.
Here we go. Yes. When you talking on the mic, then it gets picked up on the video.
I just want to point out that you did say that you didn't know it when you were 18, and I think that's the point we're trying to make. I don't want to seem like we are complaining, because it is true. We do have $400 pair of shoes and $700 phones, but this is the point that I'm trying to make, is I wish that we can have the opportunities to know these benefits, the scholarships, right now when we are 18, not later. And we're like, oh, I wish. No, I want the opportunity now. I don't know if that sounds greedy of me, but I would love to know, like again, when we were talking about the financial aid and the FAFSA, I still don't understand that process, and I would wish I had help with that.
We're going to try to get a couple more mics out here.
I'm not trying to play the one-up Jeremy game, but I'm $80,000 in debt. Yeah. Pardon me? You have 40? Yeah. No, I'm $80,000 in debt, and that's partly because when I teach history and political science here, but I'm also the study abroad coordinator. And part of the reason why I'm so in debt is because I studied abroad in graduate school, where I spent an entire year abroad. That alone cost me about $30,000 plus my tuition that I was paying at a private school. And I've struggled with a lot. I kind of wish that if I had maybe taken a year off and taken what's called a gap year, maybe worked for a little bit before I went on to grad school, maybe I would have made different choices. But at the same time, I also agree with Jeremy. Well, part of the reason why I went straight through is I was afraid that if I didn't keep going straight to grad school, I would never do it. I would stop and just start doing something else and wouldn't pursue it. And I really did want to pursue a study abroad program, because I just knew I wanted to be out in the world and see different things, something that nobody else in my family had done. So I don't regret it, because I know that's also what helped me get the job here when I was being hired, 12 years ago. But at the same time, do I like paying $600 a month? And so my question to you, before Jeremy was going to ask his question, I wanted to ask you guys, hearing you talk about all these things, is there a way that perhaps in your own language, or something that would get through to you, a way that, what you're borrowing, and I know financial aid tries, they really try to let you know what it is, but I wonder if there's a way in more real terms and more practical terms that it can be driven home to you what it means when you incur this kind of debt. What does it mean when you take out $40,000 in debt, how you're going to be paying it? And I wonder if maybe there's a way, if any of you guys have any thoughts on that, of something that would actually translate to you in a way that maybe just saying it, because on paper, when you read it, they tried telling me, oh, you're going to be paying this off, and unsubsidized loans versus subsidized loans, but you're not really thinking, you're like, yeah, just give me my money because I want to do what I'm going to do. But then when you're paying it per month, and you're like, well, I can't take that trip I want to take, because I'm paying what's $600 times 12. That's a lot of money per year that I could be using towards something else.
Right off the top, right?
Right. So again, I don't regret it, because I just look at it. I mean, it is what it is. But at the same time, I wonder if you guys have any ideas of ways that can be imparted to you. Maybe not to borrow as much if you can, and to kind of cut those corners while still pursuing what you want to do. Does that make sense?
Okay, well, I think there's a direct response, and then we'll go to your question, okay? Jeremy. All right, you're next, okay? Yep. Trying to take them in order.
All right, what you said about the psych book, he paid $100 for a book and he didn't open it. Do you feel like that's okay? For the class course, I mean. The teacher did not have a book be opened.
Well, I'd have to ask them why. And I'll tell you, I teach political science here, and a lot of students have made that comment to me. And, the comment that I make back to them is that 80% of what we cover in my class is out of the book. And so, yes, you may be able to sit through my class and learn enough by taking notes that you can get through the class, and pass it, Now, does that mean that as a teacher, I shouldn't cover the material so well that you're forced to read it? Or is it the responsibility of a student to, you guys are adults, And is it your responsibility as students to say, okay, yeah, I can sit through Mr. K's lecture and I'll pick up enough on this chapter that I can pass the quiz and, go on about my life. Or actually say, well, I'm here to learn. I have a thirst for knowledge, so I want to make sure I get everything out of this class. So I'm going to sit down and read that chapter regardless of whether or not I could be successful on the quiz.
I'm going to follow up with Jeremy there because I'm the director of the honors program here at Moraine Valley. And one thing that I hear a lot when students come to me is like, Alicia, there were questions on that test that they didn't go over in the classroom. Well, guys, did we read the chapters in the book? Well, I skimmed through it, but I thought, the teacher always says the notes are good enough, but the notes may not always be good enough. And that sometimes it is the student's responsibility to read those chapters, to take notes, to look at it, because where does most of your learning occur in college? Where does it occur? Answer. Outside of the classroom. So it happens outside of the classroom. So that's your responsibility to open those books. Because if we read the chapters to you, you know what I mean, and open the book all the time, we would lose out on valuable time teaching you things that we felt that needed to be enhanced in the classroom, or needed a little more hands-on work. So sometimes it is up to you guys to pull the books open. That is one of the most common things I hear as the director of the honors program, though. And I do have a response to, if you don't mind, can I keep going with the response? I have a quick response to your question about scholarships. I've been with Moraine Valley 12 or 13 years now. I started here at 18, and I've moved my way up. I started in the library, I went to the admissions office, and now I'm the director of the honors program. And so I was the high school admissions recruiter in the admissions office for 6 or 7 years here at Moraine. And I was in all of your high schools. If you were in district, I was there. If you were an out-of-district private feeder, I was there. And I was there 2 to 3 times a semester. There are scholarship opportunities in your high schools and the guidance offices, on the guidance counselors' websites. They provide all of those to you. Moraine Valley offers a Distinguished Scholars Award that when I was in charge, and I am in charge of that too, there's an invitation that goes out to all students that qualify for the top 10%. There are 500 students a year that qualify for that Distinguished Scholar Award. Can you guess how many students actually take advantage of that? We can take up to 250 students too. So we can't take all 500, we can take half of the 500, which is 250. How many students do you think actually participate in free tuition for 2 years? How many? Sherrard, what? A little higher than 25. It's 68 students as an average. 68 students. And I send personal invitations twice a year to all 500 of you that qualify for those. So there are awards out there, and there are people that want to help you find them. Sometimes we aren't thinking about it, though, and that's okay. So here at Moraine, we have our financial aid websites. They have the scholarships on them. Mr. Kingery, I'm texting Jeremy. Mr. Kingery, he has done scholarship presentations for me for the honors program. So there's a lot of ways that we can find more information. We just have to dig sometimes, or we just have to ask us. Yeah. Sorry, ma'am.
Hi. No, I almost forgot, but I didn't have to take out any undergrad debt. I was very fortunate in going to one of the most expensive state institutions, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Now, I found out when I was there that I was interested in higher education, so I knew that meant a master's degree. And so I struggled for a very long time, a year, saying, that, You know, it was really, really hard because I had a lot of friends that came out of undergrad with $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 in debt just for a 4-year degree, and many of them did have to do post, undergrad work. And so my parents told me they were very sad that I would have to possibly take out loans, and I was like, oh, thanks for sympathizing, but not really. But my mom and dad told me, think about it as an investment in yourself. And so that was the only thing that made me okay with it. I still cry every time I hit the submit button, But I want you guys to kind of look at it like that. Don't just say, oh, that. If you actually believe in whatever you're going towards, like if you want to go into, you want to be a politician, you want to be an advisor, if you want to do anything, if you actually are putting in all the effort beyond the money side of the things, you will be successful because you're going to do what it takes in order to be that and do that. So I don't want you guys to focus so much on, oh, that. it's hard because I still struggle every day, you know, when I have to hit the button. But I mean, think about it like that. Don't just say that, oh, I'm taking out $20,000 in debt. And I mean, like they said, take out as less as possible. I did not. I was looking, I got a refund. I said, that's loan money. You can have that back. You know, I don't want that, you know, because I do not want to have to pay for all of this forever. Like, I mean, they put you on like a standard tier plan, but for some people, it's going to take longer than that. You know, I mean, it just depends. And I mean, hopefully I will be fortunate enough. I went to Lewis for my master's, and so it wasn't as expensive. It was still a lot, but it was like 20-something thousand. But I cry every time I think about 20-something thousand paying back to somebody, because that was still $20,000. I didn't think about that, you know. So think about it as an investment in yourself. I would not change it. I would not change it. I am very glad that I did it, because I would not be here before you all today. I wouldn't be in higher ed at all, which is where I feel my calling is. So I'm very glad that I took the time to invest in myself, and I had people along the way to help me to understand these things. I mean, I do work in a TRIO office, but I am a TRIO alum, so I had people in high school, I had people in college, but I went to go get the help and get the resources because they did not come to me, especially not on the University of Illinois campus. Being a minority on that campus, it was not the easiest experience, but I still took advantage of what was there for me. So I just encourage you all to do that. I mean, we have all of us in this room right now, and there are like 1 trillion more of us on this campus that can help you. Everybody knows something about something. If not, they can take you to the right person. So don't be afraid. I mean, you all matter. Without you all, we would not be here. So I'm done with my motivational speech.
Mike, can I just add something to that? Yeah, I wanted to say too, you know, like you said, you know, the information is out there, and there are resources here. So, you know, I'll give you my card when we're done. You come see me. I promise you, I'll help you figure out what I can, or like you said, or like Shanika said, I'll find somebody who can help you with that. One last thing I want to say about the cost of tuition too, guys. This is also very important why you want to do well while you're here at Moraine, because a lot of schools, if you leave here with a high GPA, you will get automatic scholarship money. I know there's a school right here in the area. Can I say the school's name? I don't want to feel like I'm...
It's fine with me, yeah.
So some of you may, and I think she might even still be outside, Trinity Christian College. If you transfer to Trinity Christian and you have a 3.0, you automatically get a $6,000 scholarship. If you have a 3.5, you automatically get an $8,000 scholarship. As long as you maintain a 3.0 GPA when you're there, it's renewed. So by leaving with Moraine with at least a B average, you're going to get $12,000 off your tuition at that school. And that's just one example. There are many others that do it. You know, Phi Theta Kappa, if you guys are PTK members, you know, there's, I think, yeah, exactly. So, you know, that's also why your grades are so important while you're here, because that can really help you, not just with those automatic ones, but many other of the private scholarships. Some of them are need-based, a lot of them are performance-based, you know, so if you can have a B average and A average, you're going to be far more likely to get scholarship money. You know, like I said, I mean, if I had gotten something like that, that's $16,000 less that I'd have in student. So instead of being 56, I'd be 40,000 in debt right now, right? So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Jessica, did you want to say something?
No,
You've been holding
it's
the mic.
kind of off topic now.
Okay, we'll finish up with Mary, and then you can, okay?
I just wanted to go back to something, and I don't know if any of you talked about this before. I mentioned earlier about the idea of what they do in the UK. It's called the gap year, where people take a year off. It's kind of a tradition. And before they go to university, from high school to university, they take a year off, and they might go travel if they can, which is not always a possibility for most of us, or they'll work. And I'm sure any one of us that teach, we can attest to the fact that when we see students like that come back, there is a difference. There's a difference in the level of maturity and how the student really wants to pursue what they're studying, and they take it seriously, and they might crack open that book even though, you know, that $100 psychology book, that even though it was never open, which I believe, you know, they should use it, because I don't like the idea of having a book that you're not going to use. But if you feel like you can do that, if you feel like you can take that year off and go work and try it, but just make sure that you come back. That's the only thing that's, you know, you don't want to be, because if you don't, again, with me, I was immature. I grew up in this area, very cocooned. I went to Stagg. My elementary school was here. Came to Moraine. I worked at Moraine while I went to school here, and but then I just really wanted to go out, and I really was afraid that if I didn't do it right then, I wouldn't do it. And I would stay in Palos Hills for the rest of my life and never go anywhere, and, you know, die in Palos Hills, and, you know. But for a lot of you, you may have already seen some other things, so it's not a bad idea maybe to consider working for a little bit. But then I think you'll appreciate college then for how awesome it really is. So.
Jessica, you've been holding the mic. Did you want to say something, or
I mean, it's kind of off topic, sort of.
is this kind of continuing, and then we can? Okay. All right, you go first then.
I keep hearing you guys talking about this debt and like how you're okay with it in a sense, but like I grew up watching my parents struggle. They're in debt, so my approach was to attend school to have a good career and a higher education, so I wouldn't have to have that problem. Like you have people here who, and I've said it in class so many times, so they probably don't really want to hear it, but we get the link card and Section 8 homes and, you know, free money from the government for people to be lazy. And here I am trying to pursue an education and nobody wants to. I mean, I understand there's financial aid. I didn't get that. I live on my own. I take care of myself. I don't have the link card. I don't have a nice car. I don't have new shoes. I'm not getting help with school. Like, what's going on here? Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I just don't.
That's society. You know, that's
messed up.
your government. I mean, there can go further, but I just want to, my parents, my father's a truck driver, a lot like Jeremy and I have a lot in common. My father's a truck driver. My mother works the overnight shift at Walmart to this day. My parents are divorced. My stepmother actually works in the cashier's office here at the college. And my parents didn't pay for me to go to school. I am the oldest of 5 children. But the day I applied for my first mortgage, when I bought my house at 25 years old, I was in the bank filling out my mortgage paperwork, and I had just completed my master's degree a year before. I'd been at Moraine for 7 or 8 years as an employee already, because I started here at 18, and as staff. And so besides my name and social security number and birth date, the next question was, how many years of education do you have? And I said, oh my gosh, well, how do you figure that out in years? I said, I have an MBA. And she goes, oh, you're employable. You will always be employable. We will, and because I have a very high debt, I'll lay it out there. I have a really high debt to equity ratio. Like, you're no joke. I have $40,000 in college debt. I owe 15 grand now, 13 grand, something like that. I've paid it down over the years, you know, but when they looked at all of that, they said, but you are always employable because of your education. And so that no matter what happens, if Moraine Valley folded its doors today, I would still have the opportunity to go find a job within the next year and be able to go on and to get another position making enough money to pay my mortgage. So that meant something to me too, because I always worried about the debt, and I was always so mad at my parents. Like, why couldn't you help me out? Why? Because now they're like buying boats and Mercedes, and they're, you know, and I'm like, oh, we all moved out, now you've got money, huh? You know, and but then I'm like, you know what? But they worked hard for that too. They didn't have college educations, and they worked hard to do the best they could for us. And now I think it's our responsibility to work hard for ourselves. And to provide ourselves with something. So when I look at the pair of shoes I want to buy or the car that I drive, I go, I've done this for myself. And it's so gratifying to feel that. But it is hard to sit in your shoes and struggle, though, because we've all been there. You know, we've all been there like, crap, do you think Mary wants to make an $800 payment a month to the student loan company? She'd rather go to Greece. You know, so it is hard, though. And what you guys brought up is very true. And I think it has to say something that so many of us have talked about our personal situations and that we've been there, you know, so it might help. And I know Erin had something to say.
I was just hearing from a lot of people that you were saying that you're feeling more and more that the value of an education is going down. And I just wanted to put it out there to all of you that it's your responsibility to make yourselves as valuable as possible. And part of an education isn't always just the classwork. It's the experience that goes along with that. Whether or not you're able to manage a part-time job alongside that, or even better yet, an internship. And I know all of you are kind of just at the point probably of just starting college, and so internships probably feel very far away, but they shouldn't be. Now is when you should really be thinking about, okay, what can I do that will make myself more employable for when I leave, so that then you can handle that debt.
You know, the other, and this may sound like a Debbie Downer moment here, but
wah wah.
Yeah. The reality is a college education is no guarantee of financial security. I'll be honest, I have a master's degree, and I'm just going to put it out there. I know it's on video. I made $42,000 last year. I have a friend with a GED who drives a UPS truck. He made $85,000 last year. Okay, so, you know, again, it goes back to the choices we make. I chose a field of education, not because I wanted to be wealthy, but because I wanted my life to have meaning. You know, so, you know, I don't know if Carol is, yeah, no, she's still, no, Carol and I were just talking. When I was saying this is something I go over at my College 101 students. I do this whole financial planning assignment. And, we get at, what is the reality going to look like when you graduate college? You're going to have a rent payment. You're going to have a student loan payment. This is what you're likely to make your first year out of college. And many of them, I see that look of shock on their face when I tell them, like, hey, your first year out of college, you may still have to live at home with mom and dad, maybe those first 5 years out of college, because I think so many of us have been programmed to think that, if I go to college, my life's going to be gravy. And that's not the case. I still struggle today. But like you said, I'm proud to say the bank still owns my home, but I do own a home. 2 years ago, I bought my first Harley. I've wanted a Harley since I was 10 years old. And like I said, sometimes you have to delay the things you want. But, going back to your first question, I would take out the loan debt I have, for my education again without question, because as Shanika said, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have the opportunity to do the things that I do. And I think, that's, again, going back to choices, and these are the things you all have to think about as first, second semester college students is, what do you want from life and how can you get there?
We have plenty of time. This is fantastic dialogue. So
it's great. I'm really enjoying it. I understand how you're feeling, because you it sounds like your family, you don't make your family isn't poor enough to qualify for let's say financial aid, and you're not wealthy enough to necessarily pay for it all on your own, and you kind of maybe feel like you're sort of stuck in the middle. And I think a lot of people fall into that. I see that oftentimes with students who want to study abroad. They don't qualify for scholarships because their family makes too much money, but it's hard for them to come up with 12 grand for a student who wants to go, let's say, for a semester to Austria, even though it's a life-changing opportunity that will be awesome on your resume, little plug there, and make you even more employable in the future. So I just want to say I do understand how you feel. I guess, and it sounds kind of cliche-ish, but just try to stay as positive as you can, because if you just keep going with the idea of not looking at maybe whatever everybody else is doing, but just focus on your own goals of what you want and what you plan to get out of it, you'll get there. If you have a goal in mind and you have a plan in mind and you know what you want, you're going to do it. And nothing's going to get in your way if you want it badly enough. And I mean, again, I know it's just an absolute cliche, but there is truth to it. So, I mean, I hope that, I know all of you will get there, but I hope you kind of keep going with it. Don't despair.
Yeah, that's exactly what my parents taught me. They may not be helping me with school, and I may not be getting help from anybody, but they taught me to keep going and, do what makes me happy. And I like school. I want to be a nurse. That's my dream. So, I'm going to keep doing it. It stinks, especially when you see everything that's going on around you and somebody with a link card driving a Cadillac. It's just it's frustrating, but
and there are always going to be people who take advantage of the system.
Yeah.
And when I talk about this with my American government students too, I don't know if you ever do too, I ask them, well, then what do you do? Do you scrap the program altogether? Because there are plenty of people out there who really do need the assistance, who without it, it would make the difference between living on the streets and living in a home. So it's just, when you see people that do take advantage of it, it is extremely frustrating. But I still believe personally that it helps more people than it hinders. And I'd rather live in a society where we do have it than not have it, because of so many people who do need it. Because the reason that it was created to begin with was for people that needed it, because there was nothing. There was no safety net. If you couldn't afford college 100 years ago, would never even be on the dream, would never even be on the plate of most people. It was, you'd be working in a factory or whatever. There'd be no chance to it because you could never afford it. It was for the elite. And we have something like the community college, which is sort of a level playing field for everybody. It doesn't matter where you come from and what you do. This is your do-over here. This is your chance in life to get awesome grades and transfer on. And what, I think, who said it before? Jeremy said it, about getting really good grades here. If you do really well here at Moraine, and don't get me wrong, I went to Moraine, screwed up my first semester. Totally did. I blew it off because I could leave college. It was wonderful having the freedom to not have to be in class and to be able to go wherever you wanted to go. And then I got it together, but it was a pain in the butt to try to get my GPA back up again once it had gotten low. And then, of course, I took everything else seriously and did really well, but it was hard to get that GPA back up again. But this place is, I really truly believe in the community college mission, because this is your chance for everybody. No matter what your background, it's a leveling of the playing field for all. So at least here, what you're paying is a lot cheaper than what you'd be paying at a four-year university or college. So I got that turned into like a Moraine Valley rah-rah speech, but whatever. My work is done here.
Do any of the students want to say anything in response to all this? I feel like we're like lecturing you or something, but I mean.
And as you guys can tell, we're pretty willing and to answer questions and be honest. So if you guys have anything you want to ask us directly or in general, I mean, feel free.
I want to ask, like, what if you, a lot of this happens with a lot of students I read, like, they study and they get in a lot of debt, and then in the end they can't even find a job because of, like, the economy that's struggling, and they end up working, like, I knew a man, he was actually a pilot, and he was working at a gas station. So what can be done about that? It's pretty sad. Like,
well, you know, I think especially in recent years, obviously our economy has, you know, been on a downward spiral. It looks like things are getting better. Erin may be able to speak better to this, but I think, you know, because she works in the Job Resource Center, but I think, you know, that also speaks to the importance of, you know, researching your career. You know, one of the things I often tell my students is, I don't care what your major is. I want to know what you want to do, and then let's figure out how to get you there. You know, so don't tell me you're a psychology major. You know, do you want to be a counselor? Okay, now let's talk about how you can become a counselor. You want to be an accountant? Let's talk about how to get you to be an accountant. You know, and you want to be realistic. And I say this again, you're talking, you know, us liberal arts graduates. You know, right? Those are all the unemployable degrees, the history degrees and the poli-sci degrees, and you know, so you do want to be realistic in looking at employment outlook and projections. You know, the economy is and the jobs that are out there are ever evolving. Don't prepare yourself for your parents' economy. Prepare yourself for the economy of tomorrow. You know, what are the jobs that are going to be in demand 5 years from now when you graduate from college, not 5 years ago? You know, and you know, the other side of it too goes back to what Erin's already said. You have to make yourself employable. If you're a college graduate who's never had a single job, that's brutal, because companies want to know that, like, hey, you've shown that you can. I don't care if it was working at a gas station, but you were able to get up, be on time, you know, keep that job. So internships, you know, part-time jobs. I mean, you have to make yourself employable. You know, I always tell students, and I'll shut up here because I know I'm rambling, but a college degree is not a competitive advantage if you're going for a job that requires a degree. And I'll give you an example. If you want to be a teacher, okay, and a basic hiring qualification of being a high school math teacher, let's say, is a bachelor's degree in math. Well, your bachelor's degree in math is not a competitive advantage for that position, because everybody who is applying for that position has that basic qualification. So then it becomes, what else? Why should I hire you over the 50 other people that have applied for this job? When I got my job here, I asked my boss afterwards, you know, how many people applied? There were 300 applicants, approximately. I think it was like 279 or something like that. 300 applicants for 3 positions. And I asked her, I said, why'd you hire me? I want to know, what did I do that you hired me over those, you know, 300 other people? And we had this whole conversation about it. But like I said, it goes back to making yourself employable beyond just, oh, I have a degree.
Joe's trying to say something.
They're both on.
This one working? Yeah, okay. You know, one of the things about, like, say, even a vocational degree, because I got one that I've never used, okay, and never practiced, and that was graphic design, okay? I was creative in high school. I was good in art, and they said, if you want to make money, this is where you go, okay? So I did it, and I had a couple internships, and that was a good thing, because I realized, I hate this. I am not going to do this 5 days a week and work all these extra hours on my weekends, which all my classmates wound up doing, okay? So the thing is, it's like, even to learn something, because you can learn it and enjoy learning it, doesn't mean you're going to want to do it day in, day out, you know. So it may all change. You know, that's a crazy thing. I mean, I'm sure my parents were thrilled, you know, when I came home and said, yeah, I'm not going to be a graphic designer. I don't know what I'm going to be, but I'm not going to be a graphic designer, okay? You know, so just keep that in mind. And people say things like, nobody has said it in these presentations, but I hear it a lot. It's just a piece of paper, okay? I hear that a lot. And you know what? My driver's license is just a piece of laminated plastic. Yeah, but let me get pulled over without it, and there's going to be a problem. And the thing of it is, it's not just a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper that proves that you could complete complex tasks that were graduated, more complex as the classes go on, and you could complete them in a timely manner. in an acceptable manner. That's what it proves. Okay, that's it. Just me.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna kind of go back off what Jeremy said. What will make you different? I mean, at the end of the day, looking for a well-rounded person. So, I mean, maybe you go get a degree in math, but then after you finish, you go do Teach for America or something like that. Then that will make you different, and you don't have to stay in Illinois. You can go to Philadelphia. You can go to Florida. You can go anywhere. So say you wanted to travel and then you still wanted to do that. So you have to look at all the different resources and try to exhaust as many avenues as possible. And if you guys don't have mentors, I think you should get them, because I would not be where I am today without a mentor at every single level that I have been at. From grade school up to this point now, I have mentors here because I don't want to forever be in this position. I enjoy it. It's great, but I do also want to be better and do better. But there are things that are necessary in order for me to get there. So I just advise you all to look at it like that. What will make you different as well? So what sets you apart from the rest? Because everybody can go to Moraine. Everybody can come out with the same degree. But what has made your experience different? What makes you different? How can you market yourself better than somebody else? So, okay, I'm done.
I was thinking if I wanted to share something about my own experience or not, and I guess I'll give it a whirl. I don't know. I feel very lucky. I don't have student loan debt.
Boo.
And but I don't. I mean, of course, I'm not going to deny the privilege that I have. But I come from a working class family. My father was a Chicago police officer, and my mother was a nurse, and so they helped me through undergrad, certainly. I mean, we all worked together to make that happen at UIC. And but then I wanted to go to graduate school, and they certainly weren't in a position to help me with that. And I chose a very affordable school, certainly not a top-tier school. Sometimes I don't even want to say the school. I don't. I feel weird, because I feel that there's this sense of prestige that goes around one's educational credentialing, and sometimes I feel like I can't compete because of the school I went to. It's a fine school. There's nothing wrong with the school. It's just like it's not like top tier, And sometimes some of my peers have gone to top tier schools, and but the reality is I'm doing the same job they are, and I don't have crippling debt, and I sought out funding options, not financial aid, but based on merit. There was assistance in graduate school, but if I maintained a certain grade standard and standing. So I guess, it depends what you want to do. I know that where I had my sights on teaching at community college. That's what I wanted to do, and I had a good handle on what the mission of the community college was. So I knew that if I could get my foot in the door for an interview and for a teaching demonstration, that I could demonstrate what I could do. And I feel that what you can do is sometimes more valuable than the prestige of the paper you have. Now, that may not be true for all fields. It probably isn't. But I knew that was the case for me. So I made certain choices that I was very scared of debt. That's the truth of it. So I made, because I knew nobody was going to help me with it, and I didn't want to be in a position where that would be on me forever. So I made some, calculated decisions around that, and I'm happy that I did. Although I am still, I'm honest, I am still sometimes wondering what could I have gotten if I went to the more prestigious schools. If I incurred more debt, what would I have bought for that? But so that's my story. So anybody else? This has been fantastic. This is what deliberative dialogue is about, actually having a dialogue. So thank you everybody.